Right. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Livy Redden. I am the chair of the Equip Our Kids Youth Advisory Board, and I am also a author and podcaster and speaker around the topics of emotional intelligence and mindfulness for young adults and the importance of I work with young people in developing those skills as soon as possible in their lives. And that was a big reason why I decided to join Equip Our Kids and get involved in this mission, is because just working with and speaking with thousands of young people, I've seen how impactful these skills are, and how helpful they are um, to help you navigate such an interesting time of life. And I want to tell everyone before we hop in a little bit more about Equip Our Kids. So Equip Our Kids' mission, and specifically the youth campaign that I myself and the team all work on, is helping young people get the emotional and life skills that they need that they may not be getting elsewhere, whether that's at home or at school, or if they don't have a school that has social emotional learning, helping them construct a club in their school to create the resources that they might need. And it's very fulfilling and exciting, and I think we're very much on the cusp of some innovative educational movement. So it's very exciting. So if you don't know, yesterday was SEL Day, which is why we are all here. And if you don't know what SEL is, or social emotional learning is essentially an educational concept that helps young people gain skills beyond just, their math, their reading, their science, and helps them identify their feelings better and communicate better, and increase empathy for themselves and others. And there's sort of 5 key areas of SEL, and that's self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So basically just everything that really helps you be like a functioning person. And it's really exciting that we're starting to see more and more schools put importance on that. So as we kind of hop in, today's Emotional Intelligence in Action webinar is going to be around empathy, self-empathy and empathy for others. And before we kind of hop into the meat and potatoes of that, I wanted to open this meeting with a short breath work. And I think breath work and meditation for me was a huge changer in my ability to identify my emotions and work through my emotions. And so, and it was on something like this where I learned that those things existed. And so I wanted to bring that to the beginning of the webinar. So if everyone could go ahead and turn off their cameras for a moment, and mute. I want to start with a short breath work. And if you've never done breath work before, essentially, you're just going to take the next, minute, and we're going to do something called box breathing. And you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. And then you're going to hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to hold for 4 seconds. 2, 3, 4. And that's called box breathing. So I'd love for everyone to do that. Inhale 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold at the bottom for 4 seconds. And we'll just do that for about 60 seconds. So we'll go ahead and do that now. and just give ourselves this time to breathe and anchor to our breath. And you'll notice your body slowly starting to sort of calm. And what's happening is through our day-to-day life, we live in our fight or flight mode. And that's something that is directly connected to our breath. So when you slow down your breathing, it moves you out of fight or flight and moves you to something called rest and digest, which helps you calm and lets your body feel relaxed and less on guard, and allows you to come to the present moment. So I'm going to give everybody just a few more seconds here to just breathe and come to this moment and just relax. As I know it's a Saturday, we're coming to the end of the week, and it can be a little stressful sometimes. So I'll give us another one more 16-second breath. Okay, beautiful. If everyone wants to come out of that in your own time and turn your cameras back on. I hope that could help everybody sort of relax. It's really, I love breath work, and I think it's something that can help a lot of young people, and I've seen it help a lot of young people in my work. And it's cool because it's something you have access to all the time. So as we get started here, like I said, my time working with young people as a young person, I get to see past the smoke and mirrors a lot, that so many of us put on at a young age. And I'm generally working with people 17 to 23. And the interesting thing is where I see the most pain behind all of the, I'm fine, everyone's struggling, it's not a big deal, is this isolation due to feeling misunderstood or confused in the emotions that we are feeling, which then we isolate ourselves, and then we begin to overthink. We have anxiety. And as someone that has seen behind the smoke and mirrors of, hundreds of high school, college students, we're all overthinking, and we all are experiencing levels of anxiety and feelings of isolation and feelings of being misunderstood. And it's very normal, but for some reason, when we experience those big emotions, we just, it can feel so isolating. And that's very normal. And this common feeling of loneliness amongst people our age has actually doubled since 2012, and there's a lot more people our age that have talked about feeling lonely. And also a statistic on that, 60 to 70% of college students also don't feel prepped to enter the real world. And between this rising state of loneliness and also increased overthinking and anxiety because we don't feel ready or we feel uncertain, the first thing I want to say on that is that it's okay to feel lonely. It's not a bad emotion. And it's very common. And it's okay to also feel unprepared. As much as I've prepped for this webinar, I feel nervous when I come and do stuff like this. And as much as I can prepare, I don't always feel fully prepared. And so, those feelings of anxiety, loneliness, fear are all very, very normal. And on the flip side of that, though, the power of SEL and increasing emotional intelligence and learning these skills, and some of these skills we're going to be talking about on this call today, is that there are very simple ways that we can relax those emotions and we can work through them, and they can be not so scary, and they can feel more we can feel them with more acceptance. And with that being said, the key is surrendering to those tough emotions, and allowing yourself to feel them. And in order for us to allow ourselves to feel these tough emotions, that all goes back to harnessing self-empathy, and being able to look at ourselves from a third perspective and say, this is normal. I'm a human being. It's normal for me to be experiencing these things. And that's part of what self-empathy looks like. And improving our emotional wellness starts with empathy for yourself and for others. Before I we have two other people here, amazing people that are going to speak a little bit on empathy. I want to first define what that means, because that's also a big part of social emotional learning, and improving our emotional wellness is being able to fully understand and define the words relating to emotions and being able to define those. So empathy is defined as the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. So empathy, being able to do your best from what you've experienced to try and understand and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And self-empathy is very similar, but is defined as an aspect of yourself observes in an empathetic manner the aspect of yourself that experiences. So self-empathy simply requires you to notice and recognize what is happening in you with an attitude of suspended judgment and openness towards yourself. And what a beautiful skill to be able to harness, to be able to essentially observe yourself from almost a third person perspective, without judgment, and being able to look at yourself with an openness in what you're experiencing. And because of this, today I wanted to create a reminder, like I said, that we are all experiencing this mental and emotional journey at the stage in our lives that can be confusing and scary, but also really exciting if we can learn to breathe and surrender and learn to tap into our self-empathy as well as empathy for others. So with that being said, first I want to introduce Tanish, who is on our youth advisory board of Equip Our Kids, and he is unfortunately, one of our advisory board members had a bit of an emergency and couldn't make it today. But Tanish is going to be talking. I had asked our advisory board members to answer the question, where could I show myself more empathy? And how will I start planning to do that? And how can we all start working on showing ourselves a little bit more self-empathy? So Tanish, if you want to just introduce yourself a bit, as far as why you got involved with Equip Our Kids, and also just a little bit about you, that would be awesome.
All right. Hi, my name is Tanish, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm a sophomore in high school right now. And I suppose the reason why I joined Equip Our Kids is because I feel as though like SEL has been a very important and crucial part of my entire like academic career, starting in middle school. I remember we would have weekly talks or a weekly class called SEL, or social emotional learning, um, led by a teacher who I still remember the name of, Miss Colgate. And it was something the first thing that we ever learned was I statements. Um, and still to this day, me and my friends, despite the fact that we go to different high schools, still reminisce about the fact that we shared SEL classes and about those I statements. There was even a little song that I'll spare you guys from listening hear me sing, but yeah, it's always been something that's been really crucial in my life. And I think it's equipped me to understand myself as well in high school. I feel it's less prominent in high school, which is something I'd like to change. But the fact that I was able to receive that education at an early age was really helpful. And with regards to how I feel I could show myself self-empathy, I think being in high school, I think there's always, I guess, a need to sort of earn time to yourself. Um, and I think, when you're in your room, sitting on a weekend doing nothing, you almost feel like a little bit guilty that you're not doing something productive. And you sort of put yourself in your head like there must be someone else doing something that's 10 times more productive, starting a business, going for a run, or doing something, etc. So I feel like the competition of of people in your high school and just in general in society today can often lead you to feel really guilty about like what you're doing um, in that moment. And like a simple 10-minute run, or simple 10-minute walk, or a dinner with family has to feel earned. And I think that's really unhealthy, um, because instead of having it feel as though it must be earned, I feel as though it's a natural part and necessary part of human life that we should all take into account, and that must be done in order for you to stay mentally sane and just have a good ground on beneath your feet. And I feel like that's something that I need to change in that mindset. And I think for all of you listening, I think one thing that I could offer to you is perhaps create a planner of your schedule, and simply see your schedule from like a third perspective, and find the times that you don't really see yourself doing anything, and simply fit in a couple of minutes or something just for yourself, so that you have that time. And it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. It doesn't have to be anything super out there, but just some time for yourself away from technology and just by yourself alone, I think can be really helpful, just to reset. And I think that's something that I take for granted a lot. But yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. That was awesome. Yeah, I mean, I felt a very similar way where there's definitely been many times in my life where I'm like, no, I can't. I could be working right now. I could be like that's not okay for me to go like super like I got a for Christmas I got a my family got me like a succulent Lego set and last night I was like uh it's been sitting in my room just I was like hoping that eventually I would do something with it, and last night I was like I have so many like emails I need to answer and there's so many people I need to get back to, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go, it's gonna be Livy enrichment time. I'm gonna make some cookies, I'm gonna do my Lego set. And that's what I did last night, and it was great. And it's just interesting how we like beat ourselves up for not being quote productive all the time, when really we need it to be fully present and happy when we're with people, and when we're at work or at school. And yeah, it's very simple things, and I think taking care of ourselves mentally really does come down to the simple things. So thank you, Tanish. That's awesome. And then now I'm going to turn the time over to Skylar, who's going to talk a little bit more about empathy And initially, I was going to introduce Skylar, but honestly, I feel like you might do it better than me. So, Skylar, if you just want to hop on and introduce yourself a little bit, what you do, what makes you feel passionate, that sort of thing, and then just hop right into it.
Hello, everyone. As Libby said, I'm Skylar. I'm an emotion and trauma release coach. So I help people understand and work through emotions, traumas, and mindsets that might be holding them back and keeping them stuck, as well as bringing awareness as to how those are impacting them today to release them, and then bringing in mindfulness to really create steps towards a mindful life that's filled with more alignment and truth. And I was thinking about what I wanted to talk today on this topic, and I immediately went back to, my experience with empathy in high school. I'm 23 now, but I definitely can say that in high school, I lacked a lot of the self-empathy that we're talking about. I think that I had a lot more empathy for others, but in a form that was doing it so that I could escape from what I was lacking giving myself. And so I think for a long time, I was actually using empathy and people pleasing and talking and being the person for other people because I didn't understand how to do that for myself. And because I was so unaware of how much self-empathy and compassion and awareness was lacking and how much that was needed for me to really be able to, like Livy and Tanisha are saying, like, help bring down that criticism that we experience so much in life, but so much in high school because of the pressures that we have on ourselves for school, from being in different social environments and parents and whatever your pressures are in high school. And so much of that can bring a toll when we don't have this empathy for ourselves. And so I think for me, what shifted my awareness from recognizing how to be empathetic for myself and how to bring true empathy towards other people was in actually taking the time to reflect on my own experiences, to really look into and bring awareness to what I was feeling, learning about my emotions, learning about my traumas and how have been impacting me, and building awareness around who I am and how I feel in the world around me. And learning so much about yourself and how you respond to the people around you is also how you can bring more awareness to people that you want to bring empathy to, and recognizing differences and similarities between you and other people, and also having that curiosity as to why am I feeling this way? Why am I responding or behaving or acting this way? And how might those same things be impacting other people's feelings or behaviors, so that when you have those conversations or moments where you need to extend empathy towards other people, you have a greater awareness for what it is they might be experiencing because you've already built that awareness within yourself. And another thing to touch on with this that I think is really helpful in recognizing is that helpful in recognizing for general, but also in helping to extend more empathy to others, is recognizing the similarities in all of our experiences and how we all have some type of suffering that we experience at some time or another. It might look different, it might feel different, but at the end of the day, we're all feeling and going through something that at the form of the human suffering we can relate to. The experience of having to be ourselves and learn how to give ourselves empathy and be in the world with other people is something that we can all respond and relate to in some form. And also recognizing how much we all strive or want to experience the same things, such as security, love, safety, and how that also builds so much of our actions and our emotions and what hurts us and what we want to receive from other people. And so at the end of the day, I think building awareness for yourself, really looking within and building out that self-empathy is necessary for you to be able to extend that to other people. And that's definitely how my experience went. Once I began extending that to myself and understanding my part within what I was experiencing, it opened up a whole new door to be able to really bring that empathy and awareness to other people in my life that I hadn't recognized truly before, because we're all so caught up in our own stuff. And that's another aspect of really being able to extend that true empathy, is taking a step out, like we were saying before, taking a step out of that mind, those thoughts and the criticisms and expectations, and allowing us to see true reality of what we're experiencing so that we can extend that observance towards others. And then I think leave off something for you guys to think about and ponder on is how you can bring awareness into your life for yourself today and also for others. How can you begin to open up your own mind and heart to yourself so that you can do the same when communicating and being there for other people? Is something to open up yourself to begin to explore this empathy topic a little deeper.
Beautiful. Thank you. And as Skylar was talking, I wanted to give a little example of how I just for context, so people can have a little easier time of what it means to bring more awareness to themselves and like what that might look like specifically. For example, I have been marathon training recently, and I just, since I was a kid, I find myself like saying to myself that whatever is a reasonable expectation, I have to do it here. Like it has to be slightly above what is reasonable. I have to perform at a slightly above reasonable level. And when I started this marathon training, I was like, okay, my body is probably more naturally prepped at this moment in time. If I'm running 9 miles, I should probably only be running 11 or 12-minute miles in order to get to a 9-mile run at a reasonable pace that is not hurting my body. And just from like the moment I started marathon training, I was like, all my miles have to be 10 minutes and 30 seconds or less. And the more I, went on these 2-hour runs and had moments to just like be with myself for 2 hours, the more I realized how much I do that in every area of my life. I just push and push and push, and I'm so hard on myself for not like being above and beyond in every aspect. And so I had that realization in a recent run. And so I slowed my pace down like a minute or a minute and a half, and I finished the run and I felt so happy. I reached that runner's high and I felt so good just because I extended myself this olive branch of self-empathy, like, hey, it's okay. Just slow down a little bit. Like no one, like what bad could possibly come from you slowing your pace a little bit on this trail? It like what could possibly be bad about that? And then I enjoyed the run so much more, and it's very interesting the way that we think and the way we even harm ourselves mentally and don't even realize. And so the more we can, it's just a continual a continual effort to just self-reflect and see where we may not be giving ourselves the empathy and compassion that we do deserve. Skylar, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, but just as you were talking, it made me think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely relate a lot to your example in other forms. I mean, just similar, like the other day, I was going through a lot of experiencing very like critical thoughts, like, I haven't done enough, I need to do more, like, why are things not going as well as I think they need to be? But the issue with that and not extending that self empathy at all or recognizing was that I was so caught up in like the negative or what I wasn't going for me that I had totally lost sight of all of the positives and like what was going well. And it was almost like these fears were coming up that when we lack the awareness and self empathy, the fears begin coming up that mold our reality into something that is not completely accurate. And it took a lot to be able to like push out of that and recognize what is true, like what are the things that I'm thinking that are just projections that are a place of unawareness and fear, or rather than awareness and empathy for what work I have done, or recognizing the positives in it. And I know for me, probably like you, Livy, it goes back. Like I can definitely think when I was in high school, like those expectations and those perfectionism tendencies were like at an all-time high, which I'm sure a lot of other high schoolers who are watching and listening to this can relate to, especially when there's that achievement, like striving, having coming up with what you're going to be doing, having to be someone for yourself, but also for the people around you. And it comes up consistently as we're saying today. And it's about bringing that awareness so that self-empathy can build for yourself so that those can begin to shift over time.
And I love what you said, specifically as you were talking, you said, even for you, it wasn't easy. Like even now when you or I, we teach people how to do this, and it's hard. And so there is no mastering self-empathy. And so I would also encourage people to be gentle with yourself as you're working to grow self-empathy and self-awareness, is that it's you're still a human. Just be soft with it, and it'll come. So I'm gonna close out here. Skylar or Tanish, I don't know if either of you had any last words or things you wanted to express. Yay, nay, maybe.
I think just for any other high schoolers who are listening, I think there's a tendency just to be like afraid to talk about like your emotions because people think it's like, I don't know, cowardly in a way. But I think that's the wrong approach. And I think instead of like shying away from talking about those emotions, embrace them, ride the highs, and then try to forget about the lows as best as you can. And I think that's what I'd like to leave you all with.
Perfect. I love that. I think that's awesome. And as I wrap up here, what we talked about today, as I mentioned, the concept of empathy and identifying when we aren't practicing it, is a big core of SEL and social emotional learning. And just to reiterate, what exactly social emotional learning is, and why all of us here speaking care about it, just to sort of define it exactly as I I know many young people may not have heard of it before, especially if it wasn't in their high school. But it's an educational concept that helps young people gain skills, like I said, in areas outside of their school's core subjects. And yeah, it's a very powerful tool to help kids identify their feelings and understand how to communicate with others, and which in turn helps you build stronger relationships, and it helps you make decisions as you go throughout your life in a more level-headed and also empathetic manner. And so it's very powerful, and so if you feel passionate about getting involved and helping us, share the mission of getting SEL curriculums and clubs into schools, and helping other young people get this information and resources that may not know about it or have access to it. That's what we do at Equip Our Kids, and we'd love for you to get involved, whether that's on our youth advisory board or starting a club in your school. And we'll help you get resources if you currently run a wellness or mental health club. We have a PDF for you with more information on that, and more information about what we talked about today, as well as the challenges that Tanisha and Skylar gave to all of us to improve self-empathy. So yeah, thank you all so much. Okay, perfect. Tanish, do you want to start us off and just give some of your thoughts as far as either how SEL helped with sort of conflict resolution, or just how you've seen yourself gain skills that have helped you with better conflict resolution and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think I'm currently taking a leadership class in my high school, and I think there are two key points that we learned to having a difficult conversation. And within a difficult conversation, there are three smaller mini conversations that you must have. But the two that I find to be the most important are the identity conversation, and then also listening from the third story. And the identity conversation is understanding how the conversation affects you personally and your self-image. And then the third story conversation is about really taking a step back from holding any biases in the conversation and listening as the role of a mediator, and sort of guiding the conversation towards a common goal, and rather than having an argument, really listening to learn instead, and to achieve a goal, and to resolve the solution. Because I think a lot of people today, we argue just to get our point in and to be right, and I think that's the wrong approach. But yeah, those are the two key points that I think are really helpful in managing a difficult conversation.
That's crazy that they're teaching you that at school. That's so cool. Because I think that might actually come from it was like the Harvard Project on Communication or something. I read their book, and that's like exactly, I don't know if they told you where it comes from, but that's exactly how they structure theirs.
Maybe we're reading a book called Difficult Conversations.
Oh, you're reading Difficult Conversations. Okay, yeah, that comes from the Harvard Project.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, wow, I can't believe they're teaching you that at school. That's so cool. Oh, that's so important. That's so exciting. Skylar, yeah, if you want to, another topic of SEL is emotional regulation, and Skylar was going to touch on that a bit, her experience with that, and why emotional regulation is important, and how we can better do that.
Yeah, so with emotional regulation, one of the biggest things that helped me when learning how to understand and manage my emotions was using an emotion wheel. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it before or used it before, but it's something that changed a lot of my knowledge of it. And it's basically a way to help you understand and identify what emotions you're actually experiencing beneath the surface. Because something that we don't always recognize, especially when we're in like the thick of emotions or in the height of emotions, is that all the ones that we usually say, like sad, angry, upset, frustrated, sometimes are just surface emotions that are really just covering up deeper emotions, that when we get to those deeper emotions, we gain so much more insight as to why we are feeling what we are feeling and what we can do about it to make some type of shift. Because all our emotions are telling us is that some action needs to take place to do something different, to make some type of change. You can think of them, a way that I like to think of them is action signals, like a catalyst to get you to look at something that you haven't looked at yet. And so in identifying them, whether it's through an emotion wheel or just by gaining more information through SEL of what emotions are and what they could mean for you, and then learning how those emotions are come up in different places when they get triggered, can help regulate them, because you become aware of how those emotional patterns are showing up for you, as well as how those emotional patterns are coming up in other people. And that can help regulate when you build that awareness around understanding, but also making sure to take some type of action that helps you to move out of it. Because those emotional up and downs are always a lot of times the result of us not knowing what their message is or what they're telling us is going on within. And once we can identify that, that's when the shift out of those emotions begin to happen. So I would say that is kind of the big message that I would want to share about emotional regulation and learning to manage them, is understanding what they look like for you when they come up and what message they're showing you, so that you can take some type of action to begin to move out of them.
That's perfect. Thank you. I'm so glad you brought up that sort of emotions wheel, because it's such a powerful tool. And it actually makes me, this is a little off topic, but it makes me think about the other day I saw a video on TikTok, and this dad had gotten an emotions wheel from his therapist. And he was so excited about it. Because and he was like talking to his kids about it, and he was like, now I can tell you it. This helps me tell you how I'm feeling. And he was so excited about it.
That was literally how it happened for me, because I was always so aware of them, like that emotions were happening, but naming them and like putting words to what the experience was so challenging for myself, but also like to share with other people. And so that was one thing that really helped. So I can totally relate to that dad's experience on TikTok.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think we might see these things as sort of like, oh, like that's boring, like learning about emotions, like but it's so empowering, and it's pretty simple. Like she just shared that tool in, a few minutes, that you can look at this emotional wheel tool, and the more you use it, the more your vocabulary builds, just like when you're learning how to speak about what emotions, what you're actually feeling, and how to portray that. So what a powerful tool. And me, I was going to talk a bit more about I know a big challenge with young people is feeling like they just can't get everything done. They can't get their work done, or they feel unmotivated. And it's very challenging. And there's a few different aspects of this. One, I would first give yourself a little self-empathy for not wanting to do boring work, because sometimes it's boring, like with school. And it can be hard to motivate yourself to do something that you're not totally passionate about. So to expect yourself to feel motivated every day, like, yeah, I'm gonna go crank out all my homework, that's pretty unreasonable. Um, and so so I would give yourself a little bit of slack, as far as like not having this like consistent feeling of motivation. um but on the other hand, it's like, okay, you say that, but also like I need to get my homework done. And so um my I guess as far as like tactical tips that can help you help a young person when struggling with productivity or motivation, but also being able to do things um in a way that is the least mentally taxing or damaging. I would look at first, I would say look at your schedule and see where you could do better at saying no. Because I found myself in high school a lot. I was in a sport, I was in AP classes, I was in all of these things, and I probably could have said no a little bit more. And I think when we get taught time management, we think the core of it is, well, if I just prioritize stuff right, if I can just put stuff in the right order, then I'll fit it all in. And the thing is that there's always going to be, you could be doing a million other things at any moment, and there's always going to be too many things. And so the core of managing overwhelm is saying no more. And there's a power in saying no. And at first it might be very difficult because and this is something I still struggle with, because you feel like you're letting people down by saying no to certain obligations. But as you learn to say no more, it might be difficult for people to take at first. But then people are going to they'll see that you're now able to show up as yourself more, and be more present in the things you do choose to do. And so, I think just remembering that there is a million things you could be doing, and potentially saying no more. And if you're someone that was just like, I have to do everything and I have to be a high achiever, maybe be a little nicer to yourself, because I wish I would have done that in high school. And on the flip side of that, also, someone just like day to day, if you're trying to be a little bit better with your time management, to be a little bit better at being productive. Two tactical tips I would give you, and I want to say, first and foremost, please be gentle with these, because there's time periods of my own life where I was like, I'm gonna master my time, and I was super aggressive with these, and they ended up having the opposite effect, where they actually made me unhappy. But I think time blocking is a great tool if done carefully, because when you're trying to get yourself to function on like a robot level, super unreasonable. But time blocking, essentially picking a time in your day, most likely the night before, where you say tomorrow from 5 to 7, or it depends. It also depends on you. If you're someone that needs to do stuff in 30-minute spurts and then give yourself 5 minutes break, if you're someone that likes to just lock in and crank it out, that's up to you. But setting an intention for a select period of time, whether that's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and giving yourself an exact goal. With time blocking, I think that's something very important to mention, that instead of saying, I'm going to get all my homework done, I'm going to put this 2 hours aside to do my homework, I would say this is the hour and a half I'm going to set aside. Maybe I'll set a timer and give myself, 5-10 minute breaks every 30 minutes to just recoup, giving yourself an exact intention. So I'm going to get 2 of my math assignments done, and I'm going to get the outline of my English essay done. And that way you're very motivated by an exact goal. There's an exact outcome. And also, if you finish before the hour and a half, you're done. You're not going to add on, you're not going to tack on another assignment. You're just going to use that time block to the best of your ability. And that's something that can be really helpful. And so there's skills like that. The thing I would mention is that this is, as far as productivity and motivation, that's a very personal thing, and it's really going to depend on the person, depend on neurodivergence. It's very specific to the individual. So I think just experimenting with what works for you as far as productivity and motivation goes. There's a lot of information you can find on that, whether that's through books, through experts. I would just, as you experiment, just be gentle with yourself again, because I think we can be very aggressive with productivity, and then we're just sort of reversing everything we talked about today.